Hey, welcome to a video about Subsequencely, which is a project to build a sequencer on the Launchpad Pro open firmware SDK thing that they released a few months ago. So as you can see, I've got my Launchpad Pro here. I'm powering it through the barrel connector, and I'm just going out through the DIN port. So there's no computer involved. You can use it through USB if you'd prefer, but this works standalone entirely. So I'm going to turn it on and just run through the basic features. And if you'd like to know more, you can download this from the GitHub, which is linked below, and try it out yourself. So the program's divided into modes along these top 4 buttons, and I'm going to start with the notes mode, which looks a lot like the one from the default firmware. We've got octaves highlighted in pink along these diagonals, but we can actually go in and change that layout. So if you hit the setup button and look down here at the bottom of the screen, there's a little 1-octave keyboard, and by pressing keys here I can turn off notes, and if I turn off all these black keys, I can come back and get a major scale. And if I want that scale to be rooted somewhere other than C, I can use the transpose buttons, the left and right arrows, and you can see the keyboard will update. So now I'm on a G root, and if I go back to the regular mode, I can play a major scale in G, and I can bring it back to C. It looks a little bit more familiar. I can enter another scale, like if I do this. We've got a blue scale. So that's pretty useful. You can enter whatever scale you like and transpose it, and the keyboard will update to reflect what your root note is. Next up is this green bar here, which is actually a slider that you can use, and by using that you can adjust the distance between rows on the layout. So if I put that up to maximum, and I'm going to go back to a major scale to demonstrate. So now we've got a really weird layout here, which means that an octave is going back up, and we've got sort of more octaves that we can handle up here. It runs out of range and just plays the same note. But it might be a little bit more useful to go down a step, and now we've actually got 1 octave on each row. So and if we go down to a really low setting, we go back to a really weird layout where now all of these are actually the same note. And we've kind of just got 2 octaves across all of these. But it looks really cool when you play around with it. Now there are some other settings here. This one is a checkbox you can turn on and off, and that will actually give us drum pads. So I've reconfigured this, so now it's sending out to drum machine, and I can play drum beats on a sort of more traditional 4x4 layout. So I've reconfigured it to send to the Volca sample up here, and you'll notice that no matter what I play, I'm just getting this bass drum, and that's because the Volca sample dedicates a single MIDI channel to each of its 10 voices. So that's what this checkbox is for. it makes each note send on its own channel. So if you've got a drum machine or something that wants each thing split into channels, that's what that's there for. Now I'm going to talk about these controls up here. Okay, I've reset it back a little bit, and we're on. We're now on the Volca bass down here, and we've got sort of a nice LFO-y, filtery sound going on. But it would be nice if we could actually have a little bit more control over that while we played. So that's what this up here is for. So if I turn this on, it enables Aftertouch. And by using these buttons, which all toggle on or off, I can enter a MIDI control code. And this is basically just the binary number that corresponds to the MIDI control code. And I won't go into binary numbers here, but you can read about them anywhere you want online. So I've looked up the control code in the Volca bass manual for the LFO rate, and that number is 41. So I'm just going to do 32 plus 8 is 40 plus 1 is 41. Now if I switch back to normal mode by hitting the setup button, you can hear I'm varying the LFO speed with the pressure of my finger on the pad. It's a little bit extreme though. We can sort of go from very slow all the way up into audio rate, and it's a little bit hard to control. So that's what this slider is for. You can adjust the sensitivity of the Aftertouch, and it will scale the value that's sent to the control code. So I'm going to put it maybe about midway. And that's maybe not quite sensitive enough, so I'm going to maybe just try there. So that's a little bit better, but it's still pretty slow. I'd like it to be faster kind of by default. So that's what this is for. The third slider is the offset, which is the value that's always added to your number. So if we start it at about halfway and we have it a little bit less sensitive, okay, that's maybe a little bit too high. Put it down here. You can get a pretty nice range of control if you just kind of mess around with these values a little bit and tweak your sensitivity. So let's move on to the next mode. So the device button up here will bring you into sequencer mode. There wasn't a button that said sequencer on it, so I just used the device button. And that, as you might have guessed, it's just a kind of normal step sequencer. You can enter in your notes, pretty standard, then hit play. Now if I use shift and the up and down buttons, I'll actually zoom in. So now you can see there's more space here between the pads. And I can actually enter the notes between the quarter notes. So now I've got down to 16ths, and they're all coded different colors, so you can tell where you are. So red is the 1, and then yellow is the E. So if we're counting 1 E and we've got red on the 1, 2, yellow on the E, green on the ands, blue on the and then 2 E and So, and the one other thing that you can do here is if you hold Shift while you're entering your notes, these will be portamentoed, so they'll be sort of slide in and out of each other. If you want to record something that you're playing live, hit the record arm button down here, and you'll see it turn red. Now, anytime you've got your track playing and the record arm is on, it will record. So and you can see it recorded the Aftertouch value as well. And if you don't want it to record Aftertouch, turning this off will disable that. So we'll just get just the normal default value there. So far, I've just used this first play button. You might be asking, what about the other 7? So there are 8 tracks, and they are all usable simultaneously. And to access them, hold down the track select button, and the active track will light up green, and you can just select another one. So we've got this cool bass line playing. I'll turn on our Aftertouch again. But while we've got that playing, what if we want to add drums? All right, I've got drums again. So now I want to record something, but I want to make sure that my drums are in time so that I'm not playing along to some messed up timing. If I hold down the click button, I can actually tap in some notes and play along to those. So now it's just running. I can go back and play. So now I'm going to talk about session mode, which is the leftmost one here, and it gives you access to all 8 tracks at once. So the first thing you can do in session mode is just to hit a pad, and you'll start the sequence playing from there. And you can use that to jump around whenever you want, go anywhere, and a few other cool things. So if I've got a sequence playing, I can do a few things to it using these buttons along the left. So the first thing I can do is hold down the click button. You'll see I get all of these lit up. These indicate the clock divider. So I can hit the second one here, and you'll see the sequence has gotten twice as slow. I can do the same thing 3 times, 4 times. And the sequence will get slower and slower until I can put it back to normal speed. The undo button, I can hold that and hit a row. It starts playing backwards. So I can get my sequences playing backwards and forwards. I can still use the jump to beat to do crazy stuff. Set it back. The delete button, kind of self-explanatory. If you hit some stuff while you're holding delete, now those notes are totally gone. In addition to deleting the notes, the quantize button will actually skip over the notes, so we can actually turn notes off. And now our sequence is only 3 beats long, and we can turn them off or on in any combination. So we can get weird irregular rhythms. We can do different time signatures if you want to do 3/4. We've got 1 2 3 1 2 3 6 beats, and we can play that against our 4/4 rhythm. if we want to do some polyrhythm stuff, I guess. And another useful thing if you've got multiple sequences playing that I haven't talked about yet is that you can see that if we play something, you can see that these aren't stepping at the same time. They're kind of offbeat a little bit. So if we want to link two sequences up together, we can actually hold the Shift button when we go to hit play, and it will wait until the next beat of whatever sequence is playing, whatever the topmost sequence is. So in this case, our red sequence is the first one, so it acts as the sort of clock reference. And we've got them playing in lockstep now. So after the quantize button, we've got the duplicate button, and that's used to do sort of a copy paste. So if I hold the duplicate and choose one of these rows, it'll start flashing, and I can actually copy it into here, and you can see that the notes have begun skipped just like they are here, because I've copied over all that note data. So if I play this, it's not hooked up to a very interesting sound, but it does play that drum beat into here. And you'll notice that when I did that, only half of the row is blinking, and that's because I could also select the right half, and the right half of all the pads are a storage bank. So the notes that you've got playing in your sequence are all on the sort of in the left-hand storage bank. So I can use copy to put that data in here and copy that note data, but I can also use copy to put it over here. Now it's in the storage bank, and those notes won't be played, but I can pull them back and copy them elsewhere, like over here, so that I actually have 8 live sequences and another 8 just for storage. So the next button is the double button, and double will actually make a sequence longer. So if I hold double and press on these sequences, you'll see they become all the same color. And if I play, you'll see that now we've got the playhead, instead of wrapping back around, will actually go the full length of all the sequences that have been linked together. And the last thing to talk about in session mode is that if we hit setup, we actually get all of the MIDI channels that each of these tracks sends on. So as you can see, I've got this configured to number 11, which is actually MIDI channel 12, because the channel that you'll choose on your synth or your computer or whatever is actually going to be one higher than this number. So this is 8 plus 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11, which is MIDI channel 12. Then here I've got number 10, which is MIDI channel 11. Here, number 2, it's MIDI channel 3, so on and so forth. And last is user mode. User mode is just a bunch of faders to play with. Or you can actually send MIDI from them. So you'll see we've got a channel selection, just like we did on the session mode in setup. So I'm just going to configure channel 12 by entering the number 11 again here. And I'm going to hit the Shift button, and this is where you enter the actual MIDI control code, just like we did with the Aftertouch values. So I'm just going to enter in 32 plus 8 is 40 plus 2 is 42, and that's going to control the the LFO intensity knob on the Volca bass here. So if we get our bass line playing again, and play with this, at the very top we've got full range of the LFO, and then at the bottom we've got just a very subtle sort of wobble. So that's pretty useful for automating stuff. And each of these can be configured on their own channel and their own control code. And then these checkboxes here are just basically a visual option. So if you want one of your sliders to be sort of bipolar, negative, or positive, you can do that. And that's just a visual change. But if you have it controlling pan left or right or something like that, maybe it makes more sense to configure it like that. So there's one other thing that I wanted to mention, which is that so I've set up a little drum beat playing on track 2, and if I go into device mode, I'm going to set up, I didn't talk about these sliders. So this one is tempo, and that's just goes high to low, low to high, and this one is swing. So you can mess around with that positive or negative swing.